Welcome to another episode of Everyday Amazing. I'm your host, Guy Alton, and anyone who knows me knows I'm a big fan of comedy, right? And in fact, if I didn't do this, I actually would be a comedian. That's not true, actually. But this next guest that I'm gonna have is a very talented comedian. His name is Dru Burks. Let's take a look at a little bit of his work.
You see that old park sign and it look all friendly and cute. You want to go take a picture by it? You're going to be in a Thriller video. Filipinos and Hmongs. Anybody that can fish like this for 3 days on the levee? Like a little Kim and Biggie. You want to rumble with the bee, huh?
That's right, the very funny Mr. Dru Burks is going to be on the show tonight. He's also the host of the Guild Theater here in Sacramento. You don't want to go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, we're Lab Rats. Check out our episode on Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton.
Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome comedian and host of the Guild Theater here in Sacramento, Mr. Dru Burks. Welcome to the show. How you feeling?
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
How you feeling?
I feel good, man.
You know,
yes, beautiful.
It's a lot of stuff going on, you know, these days for comedians.
Yes. Oh, a bunch of stuff going on, man. It don't stop. Definitely don't stop.
First off, I want to ask you, man, how did you get into comedy in the first place?
Being born and raised in Sacramento, so comedy, I was a class clown anyway, right? So, but I never thought about comedy until there was an open mic night at this bar and some friends of mine signed me up, but I didn't know.
Oh.
And so they called my name and I was like, what is going on, right? So I went out there, but at that time, it's basically what they call roasting. So you just talking about the people in the crowd, but everybody was laughing.
Right.
And then you get this feeling because you see a reaction, the way people is acting like they laughing at me like that. And once I felt that, it was on. It was on from there? It was on from there, yeah.
Okay.
It was on, yeah.
So they sign you up for this, and you actually, they were probably doing it to try to, you know, they thinking you're going to bomb, probably, right? And
well, they knew out of the crew, I was the clown, the class clown, right? So the funny one, always clowning. So, and all the other people that were going up on the amateur night, they was okay. He's like, oh no, you can get him, and they did it, and then I won the $50, and I was
oh, there was money involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I won the $50, and then it was on ever since then.
Okay, so
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. So from there, you know, you kind of get like the bug, like, okay, I can actually do this.
Yeah.
And so what was your journey like? What were your next steps?
Well, the journeys is the open mics. Then you start going to these different open mics that you see, and then that's when you get your chops of with open mic. First is with a predominantly black audience, because they gonna let you know if you funny, because we already think we funny anyway, right? So I pay my money, you better be funny, right? So then once you start getting that, then you start hearing about other places to go, and then that's when the money start coming in, and then you're like, wait a minute, I can do 15 minutes worth of work and get paid and be done for the day. Oh. And then it was on and popping.
It was on and popping after that, you know?
Yeah, it was on after that.
So, you know, what would you say to someone out there looking to get their start? I know you just said the open mics is where, you know, where you make the money, but what about like material and working on material? What's your process like?
Life, period. Like, it's hard to tell another comedian how they do theirs, because everybody's different.
Okay.
So when you look at it, comedians, there's one thing that we do all have in common. Everything is funny. Like, no matter what we looking at, we could be at a funeral right now. Something gonna be funny in that. So really, when you're looking at this comedy game and how it works and how the structure works for me, is literally life. Because there's something funny in everything in life. It's hilarious.
So that just from hearing, first of all, what you said there when you said funeral, I was like the hats. There's probably a funny hat at every funeral.
Something. Yes.
But also, what I think about too is I think that's a very relatable thing when you talk about being able to look at life and be able to get some laughter out of it, right? No matter what it is. So that also tells me a little bit like the type of person you are, right? Like would you say you're a person that, like, to be a comedian, like, you can't take yourself too seriously?
You can't take life too seriously.
Okay, there we go.
You can't take it, not even yourself, but life, period, because everything moves in a blink. So when you look at life, it's a blink, right? So anything like me and how I structure the comedy world is, regardless of how bad your day's going, the blessings that we have being comedians is somebody could be having the worst day ever, but they come to a show, that 15 minutes that we're giving them, or 20 minutes or an hour show that we're giving them, they forgot about that. So that's what it's really about in the comedy world.
Okay. Now, what do you think about, you've been doing comedy for how long now? How many years?
16 years.
16 years,
Yeah,
right?
16 years, yeah.
How has comedy changed since you started to where we're at now, right? Because I always be hearing, comedians say that it's different, right? That's why some of them won't even tour anymore, because it's like, it's so different, and they say the things that they would like to talk about that they don't feel safe to talk about, and you should be safe to talk about it as a comedian. So, from your experience, like, how do you feel about how the state of comedy right now?
So it's changed from like the early 2000s till now. Really, is social media more than anything, because before you really didn't have a lot of it, right? You had some, but like MySpace, right?
Right.
But when you look at it, anybody can film you or show what's going on, right? So that's the part that changed. But then another part that changed in the comedy world, you have comedians online. So the social media comedians, there's different ones. And then you have comedians that are on the stage constantly. People still touring, but then you'll notice now, you'll see the comedians that are on the internet touring with the Mike Epps, with the D.L. Hugleys, because what that helps with, it helps the balance of it. They have 3 million followers on their social media, so then that's gonna take the way we do comedy on the stage to the next level, because now you're grabbing their audience.
The audience too.
So that's really what's changed a lot, is that. Now, as far as kind of a two-part question, your other question about the comedy changing because you can't say this, you can't say that. Well, that's also coming from social media. So when you look at history, when you've seen a Eddie Murphy and you watch Delirious, or when you listen to a Red Fox album, even when you listen to Bill Cosby, or Mama Mabel's, all those guys, when you listen to those albums, we had a surprise, because you were able to, you heard about it at a barbershop, but you didn't really know. So when you was a kid, you was like, I ain't know nothing about what Eddie Murphy was saying.
Right.
Or I didn't know what Richard Pryor was saying. And your mom and dad told you to go in the room. Right? Because they didn't want you in grown folks' business.
I was just about to say that.
Now, the way comedy changed, there's no more grown folks' business. It's everybody business. So that's how comedy changed. Because now, everybody recording, or everybody heard it, and we getting it instantly.
Right.
It's not, 7 months ago, I heard Eddie Murphy, the Delirious videotape. You had to buy it at the barbershop. You had to get it. So those social media really killed all that. And the phones. That's why now when you go to comedy shows, you don't see the, people tell you put the phones away.
Right.
Or you get kicked out. So it's things like that that's really changed, even from when I started, because it wasn't like that at first.
Okay. Being from Sacramento, comedian, and like you said, you talk about life, right? What is something that, you being from Sacramento, like what would you say to somebody who's like, well, how is Sacramento comedian different from a New York comedian, right? Like obviously, New York, everyone, they get a lot of like shine and light because we have a lot of greats that come out of New York, but. Being from Sacramento, what would you say to somebody like, okay, well, this is why, you should check out Sacramento comedians?
Well, I think it's even putting a city on it. So you go from east to west, right? Mm-hmm. It's not really Sacramento because it's the person. It's not like, with music, you got different artists, right? But with comedians, New York and that East Coast, it's more serious structure.
Okay.
Right. So you'll see more of a laid back, I'm gonna tell the joke. I'm gonna give you the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Got it, okay.
Done, right. So, but when you on the West Coast, even in the South, they got more energy towards a comedy because it was how they was raised, or it's how the movement, so we talk fast.
Okay.
So when you got people in the Bay, it's different.
Yeah.
The comedy's similar. So everybody got that same energy. The energy's here. Mm-hmm. East, it's more down here because they're moving at a cooler place and they want you to hear the joke.
Got it.
Really, so it's not like a Sacramento thing.
It's a West Coast and East Coast type of thing.
It's
a style thing.
It's a style thing, just
Okay.
like in hip hop. It's a style thing, right? You'll be like, oh, you could tell he from the East Coast.
Right.
Like the way he rapping. Same thing with comedy. You can look at somebody and be like, oh, he from the East. Because he's not going to give you that movement. He or she, I should say.
Right.
They're going to give you one mic, straight, do it. That's it.
Okay. Well, now for yourself, inspirations, like who would you say, you looked up to growing up in your comedy journey?
So it's funny because, you could say, because you grew up in the 80s, okay, you could say Eddie Murphy, watching Def Comedy Jam and all those things, and Martin, Chris Rock, D.L. Hughley, all those guys, But then when you start doing the comedy and looking at it, it's like the local people that you see. Like, I got a good friend, Insane Wayne, shout out to Insane Wayne, comedian dude. Like, I study this dude, you watch him, and you watch these people, and you see them. They may not have made it to where you've seen them on TV or something like that, but you're looking at them and you're like, oh God, the structure's amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's really how comedians watch other people. It's like a sport. His movement is crazy, So those, I do look up to those people, but more of my people I work with on a regular, I look up to a lot.
A lot, okay. Yeah. There's another question I want to ask you about, just like style, but before I do that, because I want you to hold this, I don't want to ask you just yet.
No, you're good.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with more of Dru Burks after these messages.
Everyday amazing with Sky Alton.
What's up, y'all? It's your man Lance Woods.
It's your boy Tony Roberts.
I need y'all to keep watching Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton.
Because every day somebody doing something amazing and Sky gonna let you know where it's at.
What'd you do amazing today?
Woke up,
What else?
got dressed,
What else?
read a paragraph. Look at God. Look at God.
GED.
Stands for good enough, damn it.
Everyday amazing with Sky Alton.
Welcome back to the show. I am still here with the very funny comedian Dru Burks, and before we went to break, we were talking about just like styles and inspirations too, right? And it's it's funny what you said about a lot of your inspiration comes from the local comedians that you interact with every day, and we had Lance Woods on the show, and he said something very similar. Like his favorite comedian is like Tony Roberts, and and he's worked with him a lot. And so, with that being said, I just what stands out to me is that it's like, as an audience member, it's like obviously we know like the Kevin Hart's, like you said, the Tony Rocks, the Dave Chappelle's and stuff like that. But I never had anyone break it down the way you just broke it down as like, okay, it being a sport, kind of like we're in NBA playoff seasons right now, and like you're trying to beat your idols, and you're trying to you study your idols and stuff like that, and you take different parts of the game and you want to like tailor it to yourself. Right. For you yourself, what would you say is like a stand-up special or that you've seen that like is your favorite that you've tried to be like, okay, like he really was like on top of his game, and I'm trying to do something similar to that.
So when I look at it, like I look at a bunch of, comedians look at comedy specials different. Everybody else look at them like, I want to laugh. We kind of look at it, and speaking for myself, I look at the movement of what they're doing and how they time the joke. Like when you watch Cat Williams special or David Chappelle, like even when I watch Ellen special, right? So you look at like even the Jay Leno's and things like that, right? You look at how they move. I look at how they move and how they act with the crowd and how they take their first joke and then wrap it up and end it in the next joke, right? It's funny to me, right? It's funny, but you're like studying it, like, oh, I see how he or she did that. Oh, that was nasty. You know what I'm saying? Like that one, I'm gonna take that. Give me that.
Right.
Let me take that move, come this way. And if you notice in the comedy world, you're gonna look at a special different now, you'll see why he moving like that. Why Cat Williams go back and forth, and forth. And then some you'll just see standing straight there. Well, because he's trying to get to every bit of that audience. So that's how we move, and our mind is moving at 110 miles an hour. So then you're looking at that structure. So that's what I look at as the structure on a special.
Okay.
I'm watching.
Now, when it comes to jokes, man, and just I know you like joke writing, right? I've heard different comedians just talk about when and where they've made their best jokes. For you, do you? I won't ask you to tell your best joke or whatever, but I just ask you, how did you come up what you think to be your best joke? Like where did the inspiration come from? Because I've heard different stories of like I was on a plane and this happened, and so for you, like what would you say for your best joke or whatever? Where did the inspiration come from?
So I'm gonna say it like this because I see you do this, right? So me, I can't write it because it's too ABC 1, 2, 3 for me. It's too structured. So I had to look at the audience, like of what's going on, and then I can kind of tell. I could play with it. So if it's a bunch of women in the audience, you have 85% women in the audience. You're gonna cater to them. Me personally, if I wrote it down, I'm finna tell these jokes tonight, but it's jokes about women, dogging them out, I'm done.
Right.
I'm finished. That's just my personal thing.
Right.
So me in my head, I'm looking at it. So now, but if it's all half guys, half women, couples, then you're gonna look and you're just gonna. I remember things in life, and everybody's life is the same. It don't matter if you're white, black, Mexican, whatever. It's the same. It's just different. You grew up different, but we all have something in common. So then I look at that and I cater it to them. Because writing it to me, like I said, is like, ABC, 1, 2, 3.
That's not your
I
style.
gotta say this, I gotta say that, you know what I mean? Or I didn't hit it. And some comedians, it worked. They got a whole grocery list of book.
Yeah.
It's work, but you lose the book, it's a wrap. Right?
True.
So when you look at it, I'm always catering to them. You could talk, stuff that you're gonna talk about, but you're going to make it about them, regardless of what color, race, female, male, whatever.
I like that because that's I can relate to that a lot because it's like conversations, right? So when I prepare for a guest and show, like I'll research and I'll come up with questions, a list of questions. Okay, this is idea of what I ask them, but depending on how the conversation goes, I might only use like 2 of those questions, or I might come up with some questions. So I really understand like what you mean by that because I have that same similar style where it depends on how, what we're saying to each other, what they say, what their responses are, and from that kind of leads me into, okay, well, actually, I want to dive more in that. They said this, and, so I can relate to that like a lot. I want to talk about the Guild, and, how long you have been hosting the Guild.
So the Guild, the comedy shows at the Guild, I've been hosting now, it's been 6 years. And then the reason behind that is because most, well, not most, I would say a lot of comedians, they travel everywhere and you're all over the place and they chasing this money, right? Because I got to get this money, I got to do these shows, right? So the thing was with me was instead of chasing the money, let it come to me. So then I created my own comedy show and then gave that platform to where my goal was I was looking at other comedy clubs and what they do, and I really felt it was unfair, and this is no, and we on TV, so I'm gonna look in the camera, it's no diss to nobody, whatever one is on. It's no diss to no other comedy club, but I felt that local comedians from Sacramento to the Bay Area, we would get, we wouldn't get booked, right? So they would bring a D.L. Hughley in town, but they would bring somebody from L.A. and then they would bring somebody from Atlanta to open up for them. And it was never from Bay Area to Sac opening. So I said, I'm gonna do that, but I'm going to, if I do a D.L. Hughley, a Earthquake, Bill Bellamy as the headliner, I'm putting from Bay Area to Sacramento in front of that. So they can get the platform that they need, and then to treat it fair, treat them the same way as if you would treat
somebody from LA or Atlanta.
Anywhere else, because you build it around that. Now they get to say, I worked with them and work with them. And, you know.
I think that's amazing, man. And like I said, you know they're going to stay to see the headliner, right? And it gives them that experience, and it gives them, a chance to be seen and elevate their game. And like I said, those people out there watching, they might find a new, and it's crazy because like I said, locally, that's what, we should support more of our local artists, and we should know who,
all the time.
Yeah, we should know who they are, you know? And so I think like what you're doing, I think is a really good idea. And I'm glad you saw it through and brought it to light.
To piggyback on that, because I think even like at the Guild, it's the community thing too, right? So when you're looking at this, now people are getting an opportunity to see those local ones, but plus feel more intimate because the Guild Theater only holds 200. So now they feel like they're part of it, because when they do see, the D.L. Hughley or Earthquake, Bill Bellamy or somebody like that there, man, I got to see him right there. And it was there. They get to see in person. So when you look at that, then it makes it like, okay.
Even more special.
It'd be more special because, yeah, like you said, we should support more local, like everybody. And I tell everybody, whatever, support your local comedians, artists, anything. You see them on the street, make them feel special. The reason why that is because you pay $200 some to go see Kevin Hart. He don't know you.
Sure.
This dude or this girl who's funny, you know them. Like your cousin. That's your cousin.
Right.
Like that, So I think that's what the Guild is about, and how I'm structuring the comedy shows to make it feel like, oh, I know that dude. I seen him on the street just the other day. That's a funny dude, things like that.
No, I like that. And the fact that, like I said, you guys have been doing it for as long as you've been doing it, I think is amazing, man. And like I said, I've said this before on my show, and I'm gonna say it again. You and like others are the reason why I do my show, highlighting people like you who are giving back and really putting in the work. I feel like you guys don't get enough like shine and light, And so a part of my platform is to give you guys more shine and be like, look what he's doing over there at the Guild. Go support it, go check it out. And you being able to share your story and tell people why it is you're doing what you're doing. I think we're, like you said, life earlier, everybody has went through something very similar in life, right?
Yeah.
And so that relatability that you just talked about is the same thing that I'm trying to bring a highlight. I'm trying to show people that, listen, I guarantee you there's a guy that comes on the show, or a girl comes on the show that you can relate to.
Right, yeah, definitely.
So I wanna, before we let you go, I want you to tell people where they can find more information about the Guild, more information about you, social media, all of that.
Sure, which one we at? Where read this one? Okay. So you could find me, comedian Dru Burks, on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Dru Burks. And then you can also follow Guild Theater Oak Park. And then you can see all our events there that we do there, including the comedy shows. And definitely just continue to support. That's all I can definitely say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much again for coming on the show, man, and just sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
You know, always, like I said, I'll be there to support, you know,
for sure.
upcoming shows and everything.
Anytime.
And thank you so much to my audience out there. You guys know where you can find me, Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, I'll see you then.